Okay, so here's what we're going to do first. This is our flat file, and this is the gauge that we have, and you can see it rests on the teeth. It's got a little flat there. This part on the front of the head of the tooth is the depth gauge. That determines how thick a chip the tooth is going to slice off, and as your chain sharpens down, those are going to need to be brought down too. Otherwise your chain can be sharp, but it's not able to get into the wood because the depth gauge is holding it up. So first we're going to find our red tooth, and we're going to put the gauge on it, and I don't have a vise. I'm just going to press this down into the bench, and being careful not to run the file up into the front edge of the tooth. Actually, we can put the gauge a little forward to guard that, and we're just going to take a couple of swipes, and then if you've taken very much, just take and ease that front corner a little bit so it's not a sharp corner. Always pull the chain in the direction it would normally cut. That way if you slip you won't cut yourself. Okay, next one. And those have been kept up very nicely. So there's not a lot to do to them. So that's that. Now I'm going to show you a close-up of the chain. Okay, here's our chain. You can see right there, each tooth has a little line scribed in it, which indicates the correct angle, and God bless the person who came up with that idea. It's made it a lot easier to sharpen chains. I used to use this sadistic contraption, which would hold a file and clamp onto the bar, and you could set your angles, because it did a good job. Over the years, since I bought the first one of these, they've made more and more of it out of plastic, and now it's reached the point where this one, you can see, has just gotten chucked in the bushes. So here's our filing tool, and you'll see it has its own gauges on it: 35 degrees, 30 degrees, 25 degrees. That's if you're cutting hard frozen wood. You might want to tweak that angle a little bit, but and you can also see on this that this has a groove. It's got a groove in it there that holds the file and sets it at the correct depth down from the top of the tooth. And what that does is that depth down determines this angle of attack of the front edge of the tooth, just like the angle of a chisel. One of the tricks I've learned, because chains tend to have a lot of gunk on them, is if you load it with a stick of chalk before you start, it'll eke a little bit more life out of the chain. Again, we're going to go around until we find our red tooth there, and we're going to file the far teeth from this side. In other words, you file from the back of the tooth towards the front, not the front of the tooth to the back. So you lay your cutter on, or your file on, and it rests between the tooth and the depth gauge, and lay it on, looking at the angle on the tooth as you do, and then three strokes. Three strokes. Three strokes. Three strokes. Three strokes. If you get a tooth that's hit a rock and has the tip broken off, it's not that important to get every tooth perfectly sharp. It's more important to be consistent. If you've got a severely dull chain, you may count 7, even 10 strokes per tooth to get it back up to the edge. But if you've got 90% of the teeth sharp, then you'll catch up with the other 10% the next time around. So that's it. When you've done one side, you turn it around, start again at your red tooth, and if you have this in a vise, and you can use the lock on the chainsaw, the anti-kickback safe handle, to lock the chain in position. If you've got it in a vise, you can file with two hands, which will give you a much smoother cut, much better job, but we're not. We're out in the bushes today and got a lot of timber to cut, right, Dodge? Whatever you've done on the one side, do on the other. If your teeth get to be uneven, and you will have a tendency to sharpen better on going one direction than the other. In thick logs, your chain will start to cut a curve, and it'll get a bar length or two into the log and suddenly jam because there's no clearance left. Again, that scribed line on the chain is your guide. You can eyeball that. You can actually take out your calipers and measure the teeth if you want. And sometimes you will get so out of whack that you'll have to go round an extra time on one side to bring it back into the same, close to the same length as the first side. So that's it. You're good to go. Occasionally you'll take the chain off the bar and you'll file flat. You lay the bar down and file flat along, take off any burr that's formed there. And chain tension, I have a roller sprocket on the tip which runs a little bit tighter chain, but just with, you should be able to pull it up till you just see till you're just seeing the rakers on the bottom of the chain clear. And you can't sharpen a dull chain. If it's really dull, you'll sharpen it once, you'll cut for a little while, and it'll be dull right away. Best thing is to sharpen it a little bit very often. Sharpen it after you've done your cutting for the day so that it's sharp the next time, and sharp when, use it as an excuse to take a break from the hard work, is put your chainsaw on the stump and have a sharpening break. So there you go.